Hi YouTube. Well, today I'm visiting the Alston House, otherwise known as the House in the Horseshoe. There's a big bend in the Deep River here in North Carolina, and the house sits in the middle of that, so it's sort of in the middle of a horseshoe. Uh, Definitely some history with this place, and let's go take a look inside, and then we'll delve into the history. When Philip Alston bought this place, he bought the land, 4,000 acres, and built this house. It's up on the high ground. The Deep River is out along the edge of these fields. And I said this is it's a horseshoe shape, and this would have been his front door facing the river, which would have been typical because river would have been the main mode of transportation. Now, as we come up here, we get a little closer, but you see the various holes in the wall, various here, there, even up on the ceiling. These are all bullet holes from the skirmish. There's even some up there, up in the ceiling. So I'm gonna get around the other side and tell you a little bit about that skirmish. Philip Alston, by all accounts, was generally not a nice guy, sort of coarse, can get a little bit mean, but he was a patriot in the Revolutionary War. He was voted in as a colonel, I believe, in here in North Carolina, and his men patrolling this area. The loyalists in the area were led by Henning, and it's with Alston out patrolling, trying to find Henning. He came across his trail. He was about a day and a half behind. Henning had captured a group of, I believe, 50 of and he paroled all but 14. Those 14 he was taken to the coast to turn them over to the British for a trial and whatever. Along the way, they stopped at a house owned by Mr. Black, who fed them and entertained them. The next morning, he guided Henning to finding his way. They switched horses. So Mr. Black was riding Henning's horse back to his place when Alton's militiamen caught him and captured him and questioned him. Excuse me. Somewhere along the line, Mr. Black escaped, was chased down, and beaten to death with his own gun. Again, Alston was not known for being a nice guy, but by all accounts, he was the nicer of the two between him and Henning. Henning took these men to the coast and coming back 12 days, which is pretty quick. Upon learning, Alston figured that the thing to do was to inform the widow Black of her husband's death, and then Henning coming back heard about this, and now it wasn't just a battle of the colonial militia against the loyalists. He was out for revenge. Alston came back here to his place. He had 75 men, left 50 of them on the other side of the river, brought 25 or so over here. Uh, this is July of 1791. It's hot. He had the men camped around the outside area. I see the, like this fence. Had them camped out on the other side of the fence. Henning came in, and at dawn on July the 29th, tried to capture the two men that were, or the guards that were still awake. The guards did raise the alarm, and a 3-hour battle ensued. Olson's men inside, firing out from the upstairs windows and downstairs. We will see some of the bullet holes inside. There's a few still right here behind me. They're still here. Most of them, as you can imagine, there were quite a bit more, have been patched up or plugged up over the years. But some of these are still here, original. Anyway, 3-hour battle, firing from both sides. Mrs. Alston, they had, at that point, had 6 children. The 2 oldest boys and possibly the oldest girl were helping her father. The boys were firing the muskets out. The daughter may have been helping to reload. The next youngest, a 6-year-old, I think, and a 2.5-year-old, Mrs. Alston put a small piece of furniture in the fireplace and had them stand up inside the chimney, knowing that the bullets would not penetrate through the brick and that they would be safe. Her and her 6-month-old got, I believe, under the bed, possibly in the room right here. So there were 3 attempts to storm the house. The first one was a overzealous British officer, jumped over the fence, came running up. That didn't work. He got shot. Nice bright red coat. Then they, not sure whether this freed black man was coerced or paid to come running up and throw a torch on the house to start the house on fire to drive everybody out. And sorry, I'm being stared at by carpenter bees. Here. I don't know if you can see them. They're the size of bumblebees, but they don't sting. Anyway, he was wounded, so he was lucky he wasn't killed. The third attempt was Henning had taken a wagon, loaded it up with straw, started on fire. They're going to push it up against the house. At this point, Mrs. Alston had pretty much had enough. So she got to the front door, waving her white apron, hoping that the loyalists would not shoot a woman. She had talked it over with her husband and what terms he would agree to. She told Henning that he would have to meet her halfway. They talked. The one set of conditions was that they lay down their arms and no longer fight against the king, and basically that was it. They could keep the house, keep the land. The other possibility they gave them was to do that same thing, but Philip would have to go himself before the governor, who may confiscate his land, may fine him, may even have him hung. So he chose the first one, and which was good because 6 months later, or less than 6 months later, was when Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown and the war was over. So pretty cool. The fact that the bullet holes are still here, And this little bit of North Carolina Revolutionary War history is still here for people to check out. So I've got one more thing I want to show you. Well, let me show you inside, and then we'll get to the last thing. So just a couple of the bullet holes from that battle. Okay, so this room is set up as a little girl's room with,
yes,
you know, if mom happened to have enough rags, she might have a rag doll. But other than that, there's always the corn husk dolls. And a nice sampler of the young lady's sewing skills.
If you want to take some pictures, that's fine.
So this is Governor Williams, who bought the place and lived here for quite a while. He was four-time governor of North Carolina. So after Alston moved out, I think there was one other owner, and then the former governor, well, at the time, Benjamin Williams, he was governor of North Carolina four terms. He was from 1799 to 1802, then 1807 to 1808. And he was also a colonel in North Carolina militia. He was a captain of the 2nd Regiment of North Carolina Continental Line through the Revolutionary War. Him and his wife were buried about 5 miles away, but when they found out that when the state found out that their graves had been vandalized, they got whatever remains they could, moved them here along with his son and I believe his wife, maybe. Anyway, there's a whole history with him, and he was actually, the militia was at Valley Forge with Washington, and they were up stationed at West Point, New York. Pretty much got all over the place. But just another little bit of history for this particular place that you really got to come here to learn about. This building, the house here, might look a little bit familiar. Let me get a good shot at it from the back. Or Williams actually made what was the back door, the front door. It faced the road instead of the thing. But if you look, let me turn you around here. You'll notice chimneys on either side. There's 4 rooms, 2 down, 2 up. Really similar to the Latta plantation that we were in a few videos back. But this one is more traditional, having the doors on the long sides, not the short side like they did there. So, anyway, it's another North Carolina plantation. Definitely a little more history here. So they started out with 4,000 acres. I think he got up to around 6,000 before he sold it. So anyway, that's enough. I am going to get back on the road and see what else I can find for you. All right, see you later, YouTube. Well, I'm taking a little bit of a break in my travels north this spring to let spring catch up to me. I'm not actually sure what this is that's blooming behind me, but it smells delicious. And I wanted to take this moment here in the hills of North Carolina to say thank you for subscribing. Over 3,800 of you have done so, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you've been enjoying the videos, and if you'd like to help me out, I have started a Patreon account. For as little as $1 a month, You could help me cover some of the costs of admissions to the various places. You know, buy me a little bit of fuel, or buy my cat a cat toy. Anyway, there is a link below to the Patreon account, and if you don't want to donate, that is fine too. The videos are still going to be free. Nothing's going to change. But again, I thank you for watching, and see you down the road.